Welcome to the Why Music podcast, where we talk to independent artists about their journeys, the inspirations behind their music, and ultimately why they make music. This next artist is a Nashville-based singer-songwriter and musician. With a passion for both words and music, she is constantly exploring what it means to be human with her piano-driven pop songs. Welcome, Ellie.
Hello, Amy Rose. So excited to talk with you.
Happy to have
Thank
you.
you. Thank you for having me.
Of course. I always like to start with where your music journey kind of all began.
Yeah, so I can't remember life without music, to be honest. I've just always been involved in music in some capacity. Um, I grew up singing in the church. My dad was a music minister for my whole childhood, and so music was just always a big part of my life and my family's life. And I was a huge theater kid as a child. And so I grew up partially in Atlanta. And so I was really involved in theater there and, had an agent and was the whole like child actor thing. And I just loved music, whether it was at church or whether it was in a show I was cast in or like whatever the thing. I was just always involved in music somehow and making up little songs at home, um, not knowing that that was like songwriting. I was just, having fun and making up stuff, um, which I definitely got from my dad because he was always just like making up little doodles. I think he could have been like the best jingle writer ever if he had known that writing jingles for commercials was a thing. Yeah, so music, like I can't even think of my life without it because it was always there, like growing up alongside me.
So, how did it go from, you know, the musical theater thing and doing that as a kid and the just, songwriting, but actually not calling it songwriting and, making things up kind of as you go to, being an artist and, actually writing songs and knowing it's songwriting and doing all of that stuff. So, like, where did that kind of shift into the artist project that is before us today?
Yeah, so like I said, I was huge into musical theater and just loved stories. I'm an only child, and I think having a lot of time to myself got me very like into just communicating with the world and like understanding the world from a very like story-based kind of mindset. And like I said, was always like creating little ditties or, coming up with songs before I was even calling it songwriting. And then I just realized like the more productions I did, the more shows I did. Um, I was in New York for a little while and like got so close to like being on Broadway and I was like, this is gonna be my thing, like this is it. And then I think having kind of like my dreams in musical theater shattered just a little bit or a lot of it at a very young age. And like going back to Atlanta and being like, okay, I guess I'll keep doing productions in Atlanta, and Broadway will call me a later time, and it'll all happen then. I think like having that early experience of like, okay, do I do I want to keep being in shows? Like I love music and I love like being a part of a story and I love like all the aspects of it, but like, do I want to keep like auditioning for roles? Do I want to keep like trying to prove to a casting agent that like I'm what they're looking for, in this category? And like, do I want to be trying to go in for like a stereotype of myself, that someone's looking for? Or do I want to tell my own stories and like be actually expressing what's in my heart, instead of trying to fit someone's idea of me. So I kind of had that like realization when I was 11 and I was like, wait, I could write my own songs, like I've got stories I want to tell, I've got things I want to create and I've got things to say, as an 11-year-old. And so um that was kind of like how it started switching of like I love music and I love being a part of this world. How can I tell, what's on my heart, and hopefully make people feel more seen in the process, like instead of kind of just becoming what a casting agent or a role has for you to be. So that's when I started writing songs and like calling it songwriting. And of course, I was the very weird kid in my circle of friends. They were like, "What are you doing? Like, you're not playing basketball? Like, what?" I like grew up in a very suburban town, so it was like, what did she just like sits at the piano and learns songs and writes them and plays them? And I'm like, what's going on? Which was all good with me because I'm like, okay, I'm not the only one. Not the only one. I'm gonna write these songs, and they're gonna find somebody that needs to hear them. And yeah, that's just always been the joy of it. It's like, if this is for me, but like, who else is this for? And I can't wait to meet them.
Songwriting over basketball, what a tough choice.
I know, really hard, especially when you're like the tall girl. And you're like, what?
Oh,
I'm
yeah, you
wasting all this
probably get that
potential.
like, oh, you really should be like playing
Yeah.
basketball or
You're
volleyball
like,
or
look
something. It's
how
like it's a real
long the
shame that
arms
you're
are.
not doing this, you know?
Right? I'm like, no, it's a real shame if I would be. So I'm not
Yeah.
missing anything.
Yeah. I have a friend of mine that's 6 foot and she played badminton in high school. Not basketball, not volleyball, badminton,
Okay.
where they're all like usually like 5'3".
Yeah.
It's like really like you have all this like this is a gift.
Yeah.
We're just ignoring it here.
She could be the
But
tallest badminton player in the world.
but yeah, no, it's sometimes you have to be the black sheep. We can't all play basketball. We can't all
Exactly.
do those things. And it's always interesting to hear people that come from the musical theater background and be like, instead of going for something that's already, there's a mold that you kind of have to fit to with going for
Hmm.
those certain things, and they're going to pick the person that's fitting that mold. Well, it's like
Right.
that's basically setting yourself up for it, unless you're like what they are looking for to a T, or like whoever they're looking for like to a T and fits that T the most, that's what it's going to be. And so it's like it's not even
Right.
at that point what you can do talent wise or creatively or anything like that. To a degree, it's can you fit the box?
Hmm.
And that's fine and that's great, and it serves its purpose, but it's also like it's when you think of fitting in a box and you think of creativity, those things almost feel opposite of one another. And so
Totally.
it's not really leaving a ton of that room for that self-expression unless you are that person who fits that box, and then that's just
Totally.
you, and then people get to see that and associate that with you and everything. But it's always, and I could be biased, but it's nice to be able to pave your own path and create your own box, you
For
know,
sure.
and just
For
do that
sure.
thing. Um, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I'm totally in the pave your own path mindset, because that's just it's so rewarding to do something different that you feel like you're called to do and like uniquely equipped to do, and like your experiences, equate to this thing. Like when people ask, oh, what are some of your inspirations musically? I'm like, everything, like everything I've ever, absorbed, whether I like hated it or loved it or, something in the middle. It's like, we all like travel, and like what's in our pack, and what do we bring? And so it's just fun to like get to go on a journey of your own, and then the conversations that you have and the people that you meet that resonate with your music, it's from like such an authentic place, because it was like traveled with for a long time. So yeah.
no, I like that as a comparison, what you kind of like carry in your little backpack
Yeah.
and what you carry with you and everything. That's a good way to put it, because it's like there's so many, especially now, like there are so many people making music and so many people doing these things. It's like, what is it about what you're doing
Hmm.
that is like what's gonna let me connect with that? What's gonna, what is it that you bring to the table? It's like what's your thing that maybe isn't somebody else's? That's all
Yeah.
you really have to go off of nowadays,
Yeah.
is it's like, what am I doing that's different? Because if you're not
Hmm.
doing anything different,
Yeah. It's No
That's
different.
all there is to it.
And that's all,
So,
folks.
um, what do you find most often inspires your songwriting?
It's always different what inspires a song, which is really exciting. I'm always I like routine, but then at the same time I want to stay the farthest away from routine possible. I want things to be different and every day to look different, in some way. And so I think that's what appeals to me so much about songwriting is sometimes it's a melody idea and it starts there, whether like I'm doing the dishes and something comes to me, or whether it like comes out of a dream, or a lot of times I'll be reading and things will kind of like spark, a songwriter friend of mine said things like will highlight, to you and just jump out. And it can be something that you've heard before or read before, or it's just the way it's said, whether that's like in something you're reading or something you're listening to or a conversation with a friend. Um, I've definitely plagiarized a few conversations with friends for songs. So I think that's what's always so exciting about a song is you never really know when it's going to be around the corner. And then once the inspiration hits, you get to like have the fun with the craft of like digging in and making it real. That's when like the wrestle of the song comes in, which is sometimes a much longer wrestling match than others. But yeah, songwriting is just always different, so you never really know what's waiting for you.
Yeah, no, that's and it's there are a lot of I what I've found is there are a lot of blessings and curses when it comes to any sort of creative endeavor, but like,
Mhm.
specifically with music, it's like it's great that you can find inspiration anywhere. It can come in different forms, like you said. It could be a melody, it could be just a random line in a book, it could be a conversation, it could be all these different things. But at the same time, like it's great that it can come in all those different forms, but there are also then the times where it's like you're waiting for it to come and it's like, okay, I need something to work off of here. Like we
Yeah,
need something to get something started. It's like, it's where there's like, the people that are you like you should have some sort of routine and, do all these things and those things are great, but you don't with doing that, you sometimes run the risk of am I getting too much into that routine and is it becoming too much of a like regular process, am I going through the steps and going through the motions to like finish these
hmm
songs versus like if you're waiting for inspiration to strike, it could be tomorrow. And then you could be 2 months from now after that. Like you
right.
don't know when it's going to hit you next. And so it's like
hmm
that balancing act is a whole thing because it's like, do I try and make this like a thing that I'm like, have a process with? Or is this something that, to keep the spark alive and keep the creativity and everything is it's like, I kind of have to let it just be its thing. But I also don't want to wait 2 months for the next thing
Right,
to happen. And
right.
so that's
And
when
I
it's
think it
just, yeah.
depends like on the writer too, which is like also cool. It's like some people like I know some friends of mine love like having a meeting with themselves almost, just to like sit and like see, what they can get on the page that day. And I guess I kind of do that in a way to like keep, because there's the quote of like if you're a writer, be writing. And so in the mornings, like I do like morning pages because I had read The Artist Way, Julia Cameron a few years ago when I was in like a slump of I had just released a project and I was kind of like, okay, what's
Now what?
next? I'm a very like project-based person. I'm like, this is for, this world that I'm creating with this record, or this is for this world with this EP that I'm creating. And then it's kind of like, all right, the next thing, let's dream up the next thing. So I'm a very like projects based writer, whether it's for me or for other people I'm writing for. But like having that meeting time in the morning of just like doing the morning pages and kind of like refreshing and like checking in and like just see what I'm honestly thinking about has been really helpful to stay in the flow, of writing, even if that doesn't look like what I'm gonna talk about that morning turns into a song. It keeps them creative fun. So I love what you're saying about it. It is a balancing act, you
Yeah.
know, of
Yeah, and
who you are.
it's important to still go through those motions even if cuz like I what I always say is you have to write shit to be able to write good shit. You know what I mean? Like you
Hmm.
have to, you're not everything you write is going to turn into a song, and not
Totally.
every
Yeah.
lyric that or line that you write is going to find its way. You know, there are a lot of
Totally.
things that we write that should just not see the light of day and not hit
Hmm.
any other pair of ears than our own, and that's
Hmm.
fine. And that's, not like no artist, I'm talking visual art here for a second. No artists, like every single painting they've ever made is sold and on walls. You know what I mean?
Totally.
It's like it's just like that. It's like creativity is this, and it's like
Hmm.
you just want to, like, there's got to be a threshold that it's like everything above this line is good, but everything below that line, like there's still stuff under there. We don't have to talk about that. We can just
Yeah.
leave
Yeah.
that to be what it's gonna be, but we have to flush that out to get
Yeah.
to the other
And it
stuff.
could grow into something, beautiful that you want to present someday. Because it's
Right.
it's very it's interesting, like the battle of perfectionism, and creativity can like keep you from doing anything, from starting anything, because you're like, but it's not what it could be yet. And it's like, well, let it be what it is, and
Yeah.
then, tinker with it, and that's where like the craft part is exciting. And I think one of the most like freeing things, a mentor of mine, was like, when you're writing, let let your writer write, because I think especially with co-writing, my editor side of the brain would just jump in and cut off my writer before I'd even get out the thought, and it was very suffocating. And my mentor was like, the editor can come in the room later, but like just let the writer write
Mm-hmm.
first and like do the thing and see what can come of it. And then you can sort through instead of just letting the perfectionism, you know, squash anything that
Yeah.
might be a gem for later. So yeah,
Your
I love that
your head can
conversation.
only wear one hat at a time.
Yes, yes.
That's
I love that.
as hard as, as much as we want to wear like
Good
five at
try.
once sometimes. It could be a look, but
Yeah, a little bit.
one at a time. One at
I
a
like
time.
that.
If you had to create a new genre around your style of music, what would it be called?
So I actually call my music poetic pop.
Okay.
That's the genre that
Okay.
I say. Because like at heart I am a singer-songwriter, although the genre has never felt like it resonated with me.
Right.
Singer-songwriter kind of feels like Americana, like folk when I hear that term. And I think maybe a lot of people kind of associate it with that. And my music is very theatrical, and like I love orchestration, and I love just like I love dynamics. And so I kind of have morphed my version of singer-songwriter into more of like a poetic pop like experience is what I like to kind of say around my music. So it's like singer-songwriter roots, but then I love having like huge orchestrated moments and a lot of like thematic motifs in my music, which is really fun to work into an album. Yeah,
It's shocking that your music, as someone who used to be in musical theater, is, as you said it, theatrical.
crazy,
That's
right?
never been done before.
So wild, so
So
wild.
out of pocket. But yeah, no, and I like that you kind of already had an answer. You know, I like to say that this is the question that everybody hates the most because nobody wants,
Really.
everybody hates the genre question, period. And I'm
Yeah.
asking you to come up with something new. Like most people don't have a answer ready to go, and like, oh, I already kind of like have this own little category that I call my own.
Hmm.
Um, but I think it makes perfect sense. Like it's where, when you think singer-songwriter, you think this like intimate, like personal experience. And you also do think like singer-songwriter is typically just like voice and guitar with,
Yeah.
it's like it's very much that like Lizzie
Stripped
McAlpine kind of
acoustic.
like simple, like instrumentally simple,
Hmm.
like sort of vibe. And it can be, when it comes to genre, like instrumentation is probably one of the top factors. And so it's like that in itself can be a limiting thing. And pop,
Yeah.
is so broad that it kind of opens up a lot of different doors. It's like you could talk to 10 different pop artists and they will
Hmm.
have 10 completely different styles of music, which is like cool that pop is so wide, but it's also like how do you articulate that in a way
Yeah,
that's going to make sense beyond just 50% of everything that's already out there? Like we're eliminating like half, but there's
totally.
still so much there with pop. And it's like that nice little like, like you said, like poetic pulls from that like singer-songwriter in terms of like the writing and the like meat and potatoes of it. But then
Story
it's like
base, yeah.
pop because we're doing it up and we're having fun with it in this way, and it's theatrical and
Hmm.
it's, you know, all those
Totally.
all
Yeah,
the good stuff, all the
totally.
all the
And
fun
I think
little arrangement stuff.
for sure, and it's cool to see like just different pockets of the US of like what genres mean there, like Nashville pop versus LA pop. Because in Nashville, like I never really fit in the singer-songwriter thing because I wanted to do more pop elements and I wanted to experiment a little bit more. But then like when I go to LA sometimes I'm like, yeah, I'm poetic pop, and then people listen to my music, it's like, oh, there's like instruments. There's like like this weird, I'm like, yes, yes, it's not, pop. It's
Yeah.
like pop, So it's just kind of funny like how um obviously there's only so many where genres have gotten more and more intricate, which is cool, but there's only so many words that we use to describe these genres. So
Right.
it's been empowering to say like, yes, this is what I call my music. I don't know what you would call my music. This is what I call my music.
Yeah, and it that's the whole point of like I like asking that question because it's like how are you like it's so saturated. Everybody's doing
Hmm.
it. Like it's like how do you can't just say indie pop anymore or
Yeah.
even, like there's you what is that like extra classification that's like, hey, I'm in this big category, but like here's where I fall within that category. And like even if it's not like you don't have even if like that doesn't give somebody like an expectation of what it's going to sound like. It's like they
Hmm.
hear what you're doing and then they hear the phrase poetic pop and they put that together and it's like that like you started that new thing and that's you're
Hmm.
making yourself like the number one name in that little category.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
that's you got to
I love
claim
it.
your
So,
own little corner
number
at
one
some
poetic
point, you
pop
know?
artist. I love it. Totally. That's fun.
Is there a song that you've written that you think best embodies who you are as an artist? Like a one song sample of if you like this, like you'll like the rest. What's the lead? What's the lead name we're dropping there?
Silly Me. I would say Silly Me. Yeah, my song Silly Me off of my latest project. Really feel like is kind of the epitome of what I want to say with my music right now, and both lyrically and sonically. Um, yeah, and Silly Me is like I would say the most Ele Ivory song that I've written because it really goes back to the initial question of like why I'm making this Ele Ivory project, and like and why I started writing songs in the first place is like, am I just delusional? Am I just like out here in this world, like, making up all of these melodies and thinking all these thoughts and, having all these feelings and like nobody else resonates, with it, or nobody else is like sharing this particular experience. And so Silly Me was really like healing and kind of felt like a good like marker in my musical journey of like I I know what I'm I know what I'm trying to convey and like have the self-awareness to be like maybe I am a little crazy, to pursue this path and like devote my life to music. But uh, maybe you're a little bit crazy too, and we can find each other in that and know that's gonna be okay, even when we're having like those moments of like what's going on? We have each other. So I would say Silly Me is definitely like the epitome of Elliot.
I think you have to be a little crazy though, you know? Like
Yes.
if you're not, then you're just kind of going through the motions and making those little steps forward, but it's like you have to be there have to be a few screws loose to do the things, you know? Like
Yes,
that's
and also it's like what's the alternative? Like not
right,
make the things that I want to make and
right.
not live a creative life and that is sad. That sounds so sad. Like, I I want to live a creative life and it may seem a little bit wacky and that's fine.
Yeah. It's better to have tried and to have
hmm
like shit the bed than to have not tried at all, you know?
Yes.
So that's my take on that phrase.
Yeah, I love it.
So, but yeah, no, and I like that like you took it kind of from a not just like there's a lot of different ways to take that. And it's like it could be what sounds like, we all kind of create across this spectrum of like, we could get really, really pop sometime and we could get like really, really intimate singer-songwriter vibes some other days. And every song is gonna fall somewhere on that scale. And like some people just take it as what's the center sound where it's like that like little like whatever they're called, where it's like the little word is in the middle and then you do the little
Oh, yeah,
like
yeah, yeah. Those
yeah.
little the
Yeah,
bubble
the
thing. Yeah,
little
I like the
things where
bubble
you
thing.
draw the lines off it and then those have
Yeah.
lines off of it and everything like
Yeah.
that. But it's like, sure, maybe it's like sits in that pocket sonically, but it's also like, hey, this is kind of like your like thesis statement track, if you will. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's like, hey, you want to know what we're doing and why we're doing it and what we're here and who
Mhm.
we are and everything like that? One song right here.
Yeah.
This one.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking
I'm
about.
gonna put that in my
Yes.
Instagram bio now.
Yes.
Thesis
Yeah.
statement. Check it
Yes. All you need to listen to ever is Silly
out.
Me. That's it.
I mean,
Anything
you can
else you
listen to
need to
more.
know, you can listen to you can listen to the other stuff, but the only thing that you like
Encouraged.
need to listen to, that's like that's like the
That tells
gated
you.
listen to that and then you open the doors to the rest of the music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
We gatekeep the rest until you've served your time
Yes.
in that
That's
like,
the entrance
few minutes.
exam.
Yes. Exactly. Oh, if you listen to it, okay, you're in.
Yeah.
It's like
You're in.
that's like
You're
the
in.
password,
Right.
you know. Yeah.
And knock at the door. Silly
Yeah.
me. Yeah. Come
Exactly.
on.
Yeah.
You're in the fold.
Yeah. That it's and I love the concept of what I mean I like to call it the thesis statement track where it's like, hey,
Yeah.
like what tell me what we're doing here.
Yeah.
Don't
I
you
love
in
that.
this you don't have to use the words. Just that song.
hmm
Boom. There. There it is.
Yeah.
Ready to go. Locked and loaded. Um yeah, no, that I love a thesis statement.
Yeah. I love that. I love. I've never heard that term before. That's my new favorite thing.
um if you had to pick two or three artists that you think your music is like a combination of, who would it be?
See, now this is the question I kind of don't like. This is the genre one. The
Yeah.
genre one I'm like, I feel good about, but
We
then the
passed
like,
that test, but this is where we're finding the
yeah, but
obstacle
then the
now.
like, who artists? Because like it's, I feel like it takes me back to the like role question of like who who you're trying to be a little bit,
Hmm.
and like I have so many inspirations, that like I feel like have formed my music. And then it's really interesting, like after I kind of got into the Ele Ivory project and like released my record, I felt like people were saying, "Oh, this reminds me of so and so." I'd be like, "Oh my gosh, thank you so much," and I'd be like, "I need to go listen to that person's music because I don't know who that is." And then I would go listen and be like, "I totally get that. Like that makes so much sense." And like, thank you. Because growing up, like being the piano girl, everyone
hmm
was instantly like, "Oh, you're like Sarah Bareilles." And I'm like,
Ah,
is that because I'm a girl and I
theater
play
and
piano?
everything too.
Yeah, I was like, because I feel like our songs are kind of different, but I do play the piano, so maybe that's, and I like love Sarah. But I was never like trying to be Sarah Bareilles. And so then like after playing shows and like releasing music, people would be like, that moment reminded me of Kate Bush. And so then I would go like listen to a bunch of Kate Bush and be like, oh, okay. I kind
Yeah.
of hear where they're talking about. Like that's really sick. Or people would be like, that moment reminded me of like Fiona Apple. So I'd like go
Mm.
listen to more Fiona Apple and I'm like, oh, okay. I like that. And like I get what they're saying. And so it's been kind of funny. I feel like I've answered that question backwards a little bit of like been making the things that I like to make, and then later been like, okay, so people are kind of lumping me with like Fiona Apple, Kate Bush, Kate Nash, like cat power a little bit, and like I love like that era of singer-songwriter rock, female fronted angst,
Right.
but in like a more folk pop sensibility, and like Regina Spektor. So it's been kind of fun to like backtrack a little bit of like, I'm gonna make the thing, and then people are like, oh, this reminds me, and then I can be like, if you like Regina Spektor, then check out my music. So that's been kind of fun to answer that question backwards a little bit.
With the artists that you've been told that you sound like from other people, is there anything that like when listening back to them that you think like you find like certain aspects of their music within yours, like, whether it's like the songwriting in itself, the instrumentation, like was there any like dots that kind of directly got connected of like, hey, this is probably why this person compared me to so and so?
Mhm. Um, yeah, thinking back, like I think definitely tone in writing was a big thing I noticed. Like with people like Fiona Apple or Regina Spektor, who like I definitely loved Regina Spektor growing up, but then it's funny like when you go to make the thing, you're sometimes not thinking about
Right.
necessarily all your inspirations and favorites, from years past. So I definitely like see it and hear it, like maybe the more like zany takes in describing a situation, actual lyrics or a little more like explorative melodies. I've definitely heard similarities between. So, and then it's been fun to like explore people's music more after they've been like, wait, after somebody says that I remind them, I'm like, wait, I want to go spend more time with this person's music and kind of hear what they're hearing. So it's encouraging when, an inspiration that I hadn't really like necessarily thought of as like aligning my music with, I'm like, wait, that really resonates and checks out. And um, it makes me feel like my music is finding its people that way, which is exciting.
Yeah. It's nice to sit in that universe, but we don't need to be too overly conscious of what
Right.
sitting in that universe means. We could just
Exactly.
accept that, be like, okay, vibes are there, and just leave it at that.
Yeah.
We don't, if we can't get too over analytical, because then, then that perfectionist brain comes back out and it's like, well, what if we did this and that and this and that?
Hmm.
And it's like, oh, this worked for this person.
Hmm.
It's too much.
Yeah. It's too much. Everybody's on their own path.
Let's just
Making my thing, making my thing,
tunnel
playing my
vision,
shows,
put the little
putting
like
my music.
blinders on that they put on
Yeah.
horses on
Yeah.
races. Like, just
Yeah. I need some new ones of those. Mine have kind of got holes worn in the side of them, so I need some new ones. Drop an Amazon link to them later.
yeah, yeah, it's easier said than done, of course, as
Yeah.
most things are. This is the point in the podcast where I take a question from last week's artist for this week's artist. And the question from last week's artist is, out of all the attributes of the music industry and all the different hats that we have to wear as independents and everything, where do you find that you struggle the most?
Hmm. I mean, I guess that depends on what the task is at hand for that day. There's always a new hurdle to jump over. Um, but where do I struggle the most? I mean, I love playing shows. I love playing shows. Like that's, but it's the best to get to be in a room with people and like bare your heart and soul and connect with people in like real time after and just hear how a song resonated with them, get to hear a little bit about their story. That's just my favorite thing ever. Um, Booking the shows, it was probably one of my least favorite parts. Just because there's a lot of um, reaching out to the void a lot of times, that of just, hey, just following up. Hey, looking at your calendar. Hey, so many of those just emails upon emails for booking. So I would say booking shows is the least favorite, the thing that I struggle with the most. But then often like has the highest reward. So it pushes me through. I'm like, I can do it. I can send another email. I can send one more follow-up. I can figure out one more, thread of piecing together a tour because it's always worth it. Um, but yeah, booking for sure.
Fair enough. It doesn't sound like the
Yeah.
most fun hurdle to have to jump through, especially if it's, if it's the thing that one of the things that you enjoy most about doing the music. It's like,
Hmm.
okay, even though this is like pulling teeth, we can pull those teeth
Yes.
and get to because there's a nice reward at the end.
Yeah. Totally. Totally.
What is your question then for next week's artist?
Hard. Oh man. I'm a ruminator, so I always like having time just to think on things. So, oh.
It's kind of the opposite
Hmm.
of me asking you on the spot for
Mm-hmm.
something.
Mm-hmm. Maybe maybe what the biggest surprise has been in their journey, like whether that's like the biggest surprise. I don't know how to phrase this, how to say this. I would just say like what the biggest surprise is. I don't know, just when I think about like the most fun things or fun shows or fun like collaborations that I've had in my own music, it's like never something I would have like, it's never something I was shooting for, but it's just like through a friend. So I guess I would just say like what the, yeah, ask them what the coolest surprise has been in their musical journey. Leave it kind of open-ended like that. Is
Yeah.
that okay?
No, yeah, that's fine. There's no wrong answers. There's no wrong questions.
There's no wrong questions. Okay.
No,
I've heard there's no wrong questions or no wrong answers, but I don't know about any wrong questions.
What is it that you think sets you apart from other independent artists?
Well, I'm me, so that's different. Um, I I don't know. I love making music, and I know a lot of people love making music. So I don't really know what sets me apart as far as like from other independent artists because I have so much respect for independent artists in general because there's so much work that goes into every aspect, a lot of like behind the scenes work that people don't really realize or expect. And yeah, I just have a lot of respect for people's commitment to it as well. Um, and I would say like that's something that like I I feel a little bit different in as well. Like I I don't really want to I don't want to make music for like an immediate return, I guess, in today's kind of like indie economy. It's like um you're kind of always looking for like a viral moment online that can lead to something or like a snowball in numbers and that kind of thing. And it's been a really great year of like just making music that I love and like being surprised by like who it reaches and like kind of letting go a little bit about like what I need to define success as and instead just like be encouraged in like people reaching out and being like, "Hey, I heard your song randomly on this thing, or a friend showed me this, or like, and like it really touched me, or like it really like I'm going through this, and like it really meant to me a lot to me, because of this." And um, so like I, yeah, I'm just committed to like making music for the sake of making music and seeing who it resonates with and kind of going from there.
Yeah, I think when you get stuck in the chasing the viral moment and the like quick fix kind of things, it's like
Hmm.
if that's what you go into something and that's the outcome that that's what you go into something like with in mind and that's what you expect to like come out of it, there's no guarantee for those random things to happen. They're
Yeah,
random things. The only thing that
yeah.
you can guarantee is what comes directly from like your own personal efforts and like progressing forward and
Hmm.
doing those things to like get a step further rather than to try and make this big jump.
Yeah.
And so that is what's going, like, I think the people that approach it with that in mind are the ones that are going to be doing it still 5 years from
Hmm.
now, rather than those who are like looking for that quick jump here or jump there. Like it's surface level rather than substantive at that point, you
Hmm.
know?
Yeah, for sure. And it's like like I said earlier, I can't remember my life without music. So it's never, been about like having like my day in the sun or whatever. It's just like I have to make music. Like I feel like I was put here to make music and to create um and finding people that my music resonates with is the best, awesomest bonus ever, you know. So yeah, I'm committed to like the lifelong journey of music and like seeing where that takes me. Because that's just fun. And like with anything, there's lots of downs and lots of highs, but like, um, yeah, I'm just committed to music itself.
And the downs make, or the highs make the downs worth it.
Mhm.
And it's about balance. It's the
Yeah,
balancing act,
yeah.
you know?
Like the booking thing. It's like I will send out another booking email
Yes.
because I
Yeah.
know what the show will be like.
What impact do you want to have with your music and with your artistry?
I I'm a very like one-on-one person, so I just always think about like the impact of a conversation or the impact of like one singular moment. And I want my music to be encouraging to people. Um, I I want them to listen to my songs and walk away feeling seen and feeling like, oh wow, I thought I was the only person that like thought that. And now I feel like I'm not alone. That's kind of the impact that I think about with my songs. Whether that's like impact happens, through someone streaming a song or hearing, my whole set at a show. I want people to walk away feeling encouraged and like their experiences and thoughts are valid and like so worth being heard and talked about. So yeah, I want people to feel seen in my songs.
I think like approaching things from a one to one, as you kind of put it, like point of view or perspective
Mm-hmm.
or, focus in mind is what allows you to extend that even further. Because if you think about it, like if you're just like, if when you are looking at what you would call your audience and you're seeing hundreds of people versus
Mm-hmm.
like an individual, you're doing it more so to please what you would assume would be like the masses versus
Yeah.
like what would connect with an individual person. But what connects with an individual person is what's going to resonate with those larger groups. You know what I mean? Because it's like,
Mm-hmm.
if you think about it, like, you're not going to turn to one of your friends and like tell them about some experience that you just kind of watched from afar. You're going to tell them about the experiences that you had firsthand. And so if you have this like connection through that thing firsthand, that's what's going to be spread through word of mouth in that way. And that's what's going to give yourself the opportunity to reach more people, is because you're like that personal connection. If you can connect with one person, you can connect with many,
Yeah.
because to some degree we're all the same. The human
Mm-hmm.
experience and everything is, they come in different forms and shapes and everything, but we're all kind of, we all experience loss and experience
Mm-hmm.
highs and experience lows and all these different things. And so if you can channel that one to one connection, that one to one can go in all these different directions
Yeah.
and can be one to
Totally.
one in all these different case scenarios rather
Totally.
than just like doing it through a megaphone, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. And because that takes like the personal factor out of it and the authenticity out of it,
Right.
like making music for people instead of you're making music person for a person, to like
Yeah.
it's like the looking you in the eye kind of making music instead of the
Right.
like looking around the room or looking over the tops of your head way to make music. Um, yeah, that's what's really exciting to me. And that's what I look for in music is like, is this person like making this song, from a real place? Like, do I feel like it took something from them, in a good way to make the song? And like, is it do I feel seen as a human, in listening to this song? So that's what I want to do as well. I really like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that brings us to our final question, which is also the concept behind the podcast, which is why music?
Why music? I love that question. Why music? I ask myself that a lot. Why? Why music? Um, why why anything else? Why not music? I'm just like I'm so thankful for music. I'm so thankful for just creativity. Like um I feel like creativity just everyone's a dormant creative. If they're not creating, they just haven't let themselves go there yet. And I feel that way about music as well. Like I love that it's something that connects people that otherwise you might have never met, you might have never had a conversation with, you might have never had a friendship with. I've had so many just surprising musical friendships over the years, and um, yeah, I can't imagine life without music. I can't imagine processing life without being able to process it through music, whether that's something I'm creating, for my project, or whether that's enjoying somebody's song. Like, um, music just always feels like a really great friend to have in the room, whether you want to have a party or whether you need to cry it out. It's like the friend that's always there. So, yeah, come on, music. That's why music.
I think that's the first time I've ever gotten the like first interpretation of that as like why music? Like why music? Why are you doing this to me?
Why?
Um but I don't hate it. Like that's one way
It's
to look
real
at it for
sometimes.
sure.
It's
It
real
is. It's
sometimes.
like, damn, you really roped me in, but now you're like doing this to me? Like, come on. We can be a little nicer about this. Like, we don't have to be so harsh, you know. We can be friends. It's
Yes,
okay. It's
yes.
allowed.
We can't be. It's music is alive. It's like having
Yeah.
a real relationship with it. You just don't know where the day's gonna go.
No, yeah, and that's like it's about it. Like that is an creative expression. It's like, I think in being creative period is like you have this sort of like, your highs are higher and your lows are lower because it's so variable and it's also so just unpredictable in kind of its own
Hmm.
way. Like whether
Yeah.
that's with you like internally, like whether you can write the thing and do the things or not, but also just like it's unpredictable in what's going to come out of it, what it's going to be, like the impact it can have or can't have, like.
Hmm.
But that's the game we play, and we play that game for, it's like playing the lottery. You play it for the possible millions and millions of dollars, but you also settle for, the $20 you spent on tickets that, you just lost for one
Hmm.
random chance. Um, but yeah, it's why music, why in so many different ways.
Yeah,
That's all
yeah.
there is to it.
I love
That's
that.
all there is to say about that.
Yeah. I love how, one phrase, a million different inflections. It's perfectly
Yes.
customizable.
Yeah. Like I said, never heard that one before, but totally on board with it. I'm gonna be thinking about that for the rest of the day.
Awesome. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. But love music. Love
yeah.
music, and I'm thankful to be able to make it, and I'm excited to always be able to make it. See what song is next and what project is next. And yeah,
The
why music?
opportunity is the thrill of it all.
Yes, yes, exactly. Exactly.
Awesome. Well, on that note, I think that brings us to the end of this episode of the Why Music podcast. You can check back again next week for another conversation with another independent artist. Thanks for listening.